morning, everyone. Welcome to the weekly meeting. I think everyone in here knows who I am, but in case anyone pops in or watches this YouTube video down the road, my name is Zoar Morales, and I'm an alumni of this awesome SkillBridge program. My wife and I are out in Hawaii doing real estate and loving it. Really enjoy being able to set our own schedule, decide when we go on vacation, even though a lot of times you don't go on vacation because we're busy with business, which is a good problem to have. But overall grateful for having this program to transition into living as a civilian. So today we're going to be taking some words of wisdom from our newly licensed SkillBridge members, and because right now you're in the people that are a couple weeks to a month into getting licensed, you're in a critical phase right now, kind of like when you were, if you look back on when you had just completed basic training and you're, newly pinned, whatever the rank you were when you got out of basic training. If you could talk to yourself just before going to basic training, I'm sure there's tons of little nuggets that you would give yourself. Probably one of the bigger ones is just not to be so scared about it, that it's not going to be that difficult. But I'm sure there's other words of wisdom you would give yourself, or pat yourself on the back for things you believe you did right just before entering that training. So we'll just open it up. I think Sydney, is one of our newest licensees. You're about 2 weeks into getting your license activated, right, Sydney?
Yeah, Zor. Right now I'm in the process of doing my EXP onboarding, and then I just teamed up with Gwilt. So Conrad just sent me the invitation for my onboarding with them. So just trying to do all the daily tasks with that, um, all the training that goes along with it. So I just finished the Zoom training for how to work the CRMLS and how to utilize CMAs and things like that. So a lot of training, a lot of just signing up for different apps, downloading things on your phone, and just training. Just basically we're just back in the military and kind of just doing all this training. But so yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
So what would you say are some things you did right? Things that you're looking back, like, man, I'm glad I did X, Y, and Z.
Most definitely saved my money because all the fees that came towards, joining brokers and just the different annual fees or even like monthly fees, that was a huge success for me. Next is just staying on top of my goals, my standards. So, journaling, putting basically like block scheduling. That's a huge thing because again, with all these things that are popping up, the to-do list, it's best just that you allot time for each thing. It's understandable that you're probably not going to get down to everything like as it it asks you to, but as long as you knock it out. So just staying organized really, and just asking the right questions. I brought this up a couple Zoom calls ago. um, you can't be a person who's scared of asking questions. Especially when you're new to this game. They were new back in the day, so ask those people who have the experience, because they'll definitely give you just how they handled it. Because it's very overwhelming. And Zor, when we had our one-on-one, when he was bringing me into just the onboarding process, he basically said the same thing. There's going to be a lot of things that come at you, but just take it one day at a time and just take it one task at a time, and soon it'll everything will make sense. And so, but yeah, just asking the right questions. So
Awesome. Some great advice, and just to add some emphasis to that, like the saving money piece, because when you're first, you fork over the $500 or however much you pay for your pre-licensing schooling, and you're like, oh man, it's a good chunk of change, and then you pay for the test, like another $100. You're like, dang, and then you pass the test, and then you submit your application, like you just fill out paperwork, and they're like, oh yeah, submit a check for $200, or a cashier's check for $200 to the city. to pay for your application. It's like, gosh, dang. And then you sign up with EXP, the $150 fee, like, all right, there's got to be an end in sight. And then they get set up with the board of realtors, and they're like, all right, yeah, you owe annual dues of $1,000, and then if you want to have access to the MLS, it's another $500. It's like, gosh, dang, everybody's just taking all my money, and I'm not seeing any money come in yet because I'm a brand new agent. This is ridiculous. So, yeah, it's a good point to bring up. And it is kind of costly at first, especially when you're coming from a profession where everything is paid for and you get paid to do everything in the military. Your supplies, everything for the most part is paid for by the government. And then it's just completely flipped around and you're paying for everything for yourself, for marketing, all that stuff. So yeah, definitely a good idea to budget for those things. Conversely, um, once you realize and once you close that first deal and you're like, holy crap, it's a pretty good paycheck. Um, it all starts to like come together and you start to realize that it ends up being worth it. Um, Another good point you made, Sydney, about blocking, schedule blocking and journaling. Um, Journaling is beneficial for multiple reasons, but one of the big ones is a lot of your kind of like meditation. You'll solve a lot of the problems that you have just by writing it out and keeping track of it. And you'll also look back on that and think, man, I was like freaking out about this really small thing right here, and now it's all worked out. Not a big deal, and that gives you the courage and everything to push through whatever other challenges come your way. But yeah, schedule blocking because it helps you to see, all right, this thing right here, it's like I have absolutely have to do this. Like, for example, I just completed or renewed my CE annual or whatever every year, every 2 years, you have different requirements for so many hours of continuing education. And so if you don't do that, your license will expire and you can get fined for not completing those things within the required time frame. And then if you're still doing business without being up to date on your CE, you will get fined. And so that's like one thing that's on my schedule. Like I must get this done. And so when something else pops up and it's like, hey, so and so wants you to go check out this property, whatever. It's like, that person's not super serious right now. I can probably hold off on doing that because I need to do this other thing. Otherwise, I'm going to get fined and get in trouble if I don't do this. But yeah, blocking schedule, time blocking helps with you to see like, all right, I literally only have 8 hours of time to get this stuff done. Here's the 5 or 6 things I'm going to get done because this thing is going to take an hour and a half. This thing is going to take 30 minutes, and you put it in there. And then if you have any gaps of time, you can do some of those other tasks that aren't super time sensitive. And yeah, helps you get stuff done um, more efficiently and with less stress because there's not enough time in the day to do absolutely everything. Um, One other point I was going to make on the whole saving money piece, a mistake that I made when I was getting started. So if I could, a month into the business, if I could talk to myself a month prior to getting licensed, um, and I actually got this word of, um, I got advice from a mentor of mine not to make this mistake, but I still made the mistake anyways because I'm kind of stubborn. Um, he said not to bite off on shiny objects. So as soon as you get licensed, Sydney can probably attest to this. You start getting emails, phone calls, spam, all kinds of stuff, advertising all these different training programs and stuff to like, oh, you want to close 5 more deals a month? Sign up for this program. Here's a free trial, and then $500 a month after that. So the training thing that I signed up for, I'm still kind of grateful that I did it because it was valuable training, but you have so much free training available to you, right? Like once you get licensed with the fast forward movement, with on the Gwilt website, all those training platforms, there's so much stuff available that you don't even have enough time to use it. And so I paid $500 for this one training program. I really didn't even have enough time to actually get the most out of it. And so it was kind of a waste of $500. Um, but yeah, definitely don't bite off on shiny objects because you're gonna be hearing about all these different things that you can pay for to up your business, but there's plenty of free resources available to you. All right. Any other stuff you did good? Thank you for that, Sydney. What are some mistakes you may have made looking back?
Definitely say in the beginning, just procrastination. I set a goal when I was doing my pre-licensing courses to kind of get that stuff taken care of, but I was procrastinating on my studying habits. So that kind of held me up. And I don't know, I don't recall who's from California here, but like I was saying in the beginning, there's processing times, especially in California. They're backed so many weeks or even months. So it takes time for your applications to get processed. Luckily, you're in the military. You can submit, your discharge paperwork or just showing that you're military. They'll expedite it, but that's still, you know, maybe only saving you a month or 2 weeks kind of thing. So that's a lot of time that's wasted. Um, Another thing is just the option for Californians that you can put in your application as a dual, like you're submitting for the test as well as getting your license. I told myself, oh, I don't have the money right now. Let me just do the test. So what happened was now I had to wait because I had to submit my new application for my actual license number and all that stuff. So that wasted time. So just a lot of wasted time that I learned. Just don't procrastinate. And if I'm going all in on this, I had the money at the time, but I just told myself, let me just wait. But if you know you're going to do this, might as well just put it in. And when we were talking just about saving money and things like that, really just budget out, start reading books, coming up with ideas on how you're going to budget and what's going to work for you, because budgeting is not for everyone, but it has to be done, especially when you're getting into this kind of entrepreneurship lifestyle. um, what else? Another thing, being military and all that stuff, you can like I said before, reach out to your VA and find out what's reimbursable. I got my test reimbursed. Uh, Depending on what course you're taking, sometimes they'll reimburse you just a little bit or fully. It all depends, but reach out to your VA reps. They definitely will help you out with that stuff. And then what else? That's all I got right now. I know there's a lot that's just but everything is just a little overwhelming right now.
Thank you. Um, so the whole procrastination thing, I harp on that a lot for people because um, if you look at the stats, like people say it takes at least 8 months in the business to close your first deal if you're average. You can tell yourself like I'm not average. I'll close a deal in the first month, and maybe that's possible, and maybe you'll do that. But you're kind of stacking the odds against yourself. If for people that are for a while, there's people that are like, oh, I'm just gonna wait until I'm out of the Skill Bridge program to start to take my test and to get licensed because I can't get paid in the program anyways. So what's the point of working if I can't get paid? And that's a really bad approach to it because you're not accounting for when you're out of the military, no longer getting officially out of the military and no longer getting your active duty pay. Your whole mindset changes, and you go from that's comfortable paycheck to no paycheck at all, or maybe a significantly smaller retirement paycheck. And yeah, everything changes. You're like, right, I got mortgage or a rent to pay. I have my kids to feed. I have all this other stuff, and your mindset completely changes. It's not this confident like, oh, I'm going to close a deal with my first month after I get past the exam right away. It becomes like I need to make money ASAP, and so you do the easy route, which is to get an hourly job, and that's what a lot of people tend to do when they procrastinate on um, getting licensed right away in the program, building experience while you're still getting the comfortable military paycheck, all that stuff. Um, that's one thing I did right, not because I was super proactive or anything like that. I was 6 months from um, getting out of the military in Hawaii. with a almost $4,000 a month mortgage, all that stuff. So like there's a lot of pressure on me that drove me to get licensed right away. So I was licensed the first week I was in the program, I got licensed. And so people that are out there um, that don't feel that pressure because maybe you live in like a more affordable part of the country, or maybe you already have a plan to stay with your parents or something like that. Not a lot of pressure to worry about. Find something to um, apply pressure to yourself. Do some goal setting, write out what you have planned for the next year, 5 year, 10 year, and apply pressure to yourself. Like, right, by 6 months out of the military, I want to do X, Y, or Z, which costs this amount of money, or I want to have this money amount of money saved up, whatever it is, and apply pressure to yourself so that it's not like, oh, it's just another week. Still got like three months left in this program. Um, I'll deal with it once I get out of the military. Not a big deal. Like create a sense of urgency so that you can get licensed ASAP and start building experience, and then start chipping away at that time to closing your first deal. Sydney?
Yeah, going off of that, like I said, so what I'm doing right now is like, because I know I can't get paid to the internship and all that stuff. At least my goal right now is I'm getting out in December. I'll be finishing up this skill bridge program December. So my goal is come October, November. Well, it's October now, but these next 2 months is really where I got to dive, you know, really deep into cold calling, prospecting, all that stuff. My goal is to at least build some clientele relationships in the next coming months. That way, it takes time also for your housing stuff to close out. So if I can get something done between that December timeframe, at least when January comes, I can close the deal and actually take, recoup that commission or whatever it is and all that stuff. So planning things out like that, knowing where you're at in your skill bridge program or just in your real estate career. Again, I can't reiterate this enough. Like it's a process the first couple months when you're getting, you're partnering up with EXP. If you're partnering up, if you choose to go with Wilt, all these onboarding stuff, you're still going to have to learn the systems. So if you're going to think, oh, I'll just sign up and take my tests when I get out, you're just kind of like wasting time. So really, if you can do stuff now, especially in this time frame where you're not having to work or go to school and this is kind of your full-time thing, really just put your head down and focus on this because there's a lot to it. And so
Thank you. It's some really valuable words of wisdom. Um, so we do have some people that are already licensed, right? I think Justin, are you licensed? So where you're at now, you're like 3 months of being licensed.
Yeah, I got licensed basically the same time that I started the internship, just because I wanted to be like fully capable, right? Do showings and all those different activities that we can do. But yeah, it's still been, basically, I think getting your license, not trying to be an asshole or anything, but getting your license is kind of like almost the easy part. And I think that once you have your license and then you're like kind of thrown out into the world, then you're like, oh snap, what now? Like, good, the license was great for theory, but that's not reality, right? And so I think that the world that we operate in as a realtor, you know what I mean? Like all the stories that like you, David and Tasha and everybody else have told about, being the psychologist, the marriage counselor, like the social advocate or whatever, like all that stuff is so true, you know what I mean? Because people are people and humans have challenges that they're dealing with. And so I think like trying to navigate at that at the same time as trying to, remain compliant, and then do what's best in your client's interest, like all those things piled up is a super, super challenge. So yeah, I recommend just getting your license and getting your feet in the water as soon as possible, because this is one of those jobs that we're all going to just learn by doing it. Because the test is great and it was a lot of good information as far as like what you should know as a realtor. And you're still going to come across things, like whenever I was filling out a seller's disclosure today, there were things on that seller's disclosure like, dude, I don't know what that is, talking about like the exterior construction of the house, so I'm sitting there, filling out paperwork and still having to Google stuff. But yeah, don't procrastinate as much as you can. Just get through the test. It's just a grind. And once you finish that grind, then I think then you have other opportunities to learn from. Um, so this is my last week as an intern. And so I'd love to just share a couple things that, are on my mind. for those of you guys that are either just starting or maybe, right behind me or in the same place. So like where my mindset is now, I was thinking, okay, so I wanted to have, like my initial goal was having one sale per month while I was in the program. All right. Way easier said than done. So like I've got my first listing now. Like if I'm lucky, this thing will probably close like mid-November, early December, which might be my first payday, right? Now, in working with other realtors and the Wilt Group team, I think what I've learned is like a majority of your earnings in the beginning of your career really need to go back into the business. Because I see the different, lead generation, not like software and stuff like that, but techniques, things that you can do by using postcard services and magnets and all the different things that you can do for marketing to increase your lead generation. All that stuff's going to cost a lot of money, right? Like we're all into this, thousands of dollars already. But I think, for that first payday, talking to another EXP realtor in town, he said probably for the first year, he was dropping about anywhere between 50 to 80% of his earnings back into the business to get it really set up to where he wanted. So like where I think like even I'm still new and very like on the surface level of what capabilities we have, just because of the technology that exists and the technology that the Wilt Group team provides to us. There are so many ways to incorporate your CRM with other automated systems and make your life as a realtor, I think, a lot easier. But honestly, you got to put your money where your mouth is if you want to create those opportunities. So now I'm thinking it's not going to be that first paycheck of $8,400 or whatever. It's probably going to be a paycheck of maybe I'll keep 1,000 for myself and probably throw the rest back at the company. That way I can create a name for myself here in this new area. Another lesson learned, is I'm from a smaller town, right? And so Branson, population of Branson is, depending on whether you look at the street sign or Google, right, it's between 10 to 14,000 people. So when you're looking at trying to cold call, like the population really just doesn't exist. I've done cold calling a little bit here, definitely learned a lot, made almost a client one time. But for me, I'm gonna have to get creative when it comes to marketing strategy. And so for some of you guys that may not be in a, big metropolis, may have to really think about what your marketing strategy is going to be, because maybe it is door hangers, maybe it is knocking on doors, maybe it's setting up a kiosk around some food trucks or something. You know what I mean? So just trying to come up with those ideas has been a challenge too. But I think I've rambled long enough. I'll turn it back over to you, Zor.
No, I appreciate that. And if you think of anything else, feel free to chime in. Because I wanted to, you being where you're at now, talking to somebody who just got licensed, there's a lot of growth that goes on in those first 6 months, year, and I'm at 3 years and I'm still continuing to learn, and so it's really beneficial to talk to somebody who's in that right in the thick of it. Like, oh dang it, if I could turn back the clock 2 months, I wish I would have done this differently, or thank the Lord I did that at the time that I did, because now I'm seeing the benefits. Kind of like realizing like when you get a lead, you're probably, if it's a solid lead, you're probably like 45 to like 60, maybe even 90 days before seeing the benefits, seeing the financial benefits of that connection. People think like, all right, I just had a great phone call with this person. They're super excited about buying. I can already see the paycheck. Like I'm already calculating. They say they want to buy a $500,000 house, so that's going to be like a ten to $15,000 paycheck. Yes, I'm going to go shop around for cars and see what I'm going to spend my paycheck on. But then you realize like that'll happen every other day. Like you encounter somebody that's like, yeah, I'm super excited to buy, and then the next day they don't answer the phone, and then a week goes by and they're just ghosting you, and then they might finally answer the phone. On and on, like you'll encounter those things like that. But um, being where you are now and looking back and reflecting on things you are grateful that you did, or things you wish you would have done differently, it's beneficial to talk with, to have mentors that are a little bit ahead of you that can give you some words of wisdom for doing things better.
Yeah, and I'm not fully retired yet, so I can still use the word piggyback, I guess. So to piggyback on another thing that Zor said too, like the additional education. So as I was going through, the fire hose of information that the Wilt Group University and everything that they offer, trying to understand how to use, FUB and all the different software we have, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out those intricacies. But then whenever I saw things, like, Renovos or Making It Rain or all the different EXP opportunities, now that I've got a little bit of experience, I understand what those programs are and why we use those programs. So certainly, like Zor said, like if you've got the extra time and capability to do that, like certainly build your repertoire of certifications within EXP, because I think you're going to get to a point, and I can already see like there's going to be a point in my career to where I would compare real estate a little bit to medicine, because then you're going to specialize, right? And so like we kind of all start, just doing this general residential property sales, and then eventually, like, do you want to go into commercial or farm and land or luxury, or what do you want to do? Like, I didn't have any idea until I went to the Missouri meeting last week, and I was talking to some of the realtors that have been in it for years, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, like when you're getting these additional certifications to become really, really good at commercial sales or farm and land, like you're looking at a 2 to 3 year uh, progress to get to that level to where you're a competent realtor for those additional types of real estate, right? Like for one of my buyers, I've been trying to search for farm and land, right? That doesn't really exist on the MLS. Like there's different ways to find like farms and land. And so like people that are in that part of the industry are on the struggle bus right now because there's not a super awesome platform to manage those types of properties. So anyways, yeah, there's a lot to learn, but I think, like making it rain, right? That's like for lead generation. And then what's the other one where basically they pay cash for houses? I just had it open a minute ago.
Is that an
Oh,
EXP program?
Express offers.
Hmm.
So that's a 7-day certification that you can get internally with EXP. So like I think what I've learned right there, like obviously you're going to get more bang for the buck because you're already paying, your fees for EXP. So roll in there, get as much of that free stuff as you possibly can. And yeah, go from there.
Yeah, great information. Go back to one of the points you made earlier about like figuring out what works for you. So like something that I've found in my area on Oahu, because the price point is so high, it takes a lot to convince people to buy. And so if you at least get your foot in the door talking to them about renting, it's like you at least have that conversation, build trust with them. So something I've found that I've at the time, if I look back, I was like, I don't know if I'm wasting my time by doing this or not, but helping renters, like, hey, just setting up a MLS search for them, it takes a minute, costs you nothing, costs you your time, but that's about it. But I've by now I've probably helped like 50 to like 60 people setting up a rental search for them. And those people, none of them have, I don't think a single one of them has converted from renting to buying, but those people know about me. They've passed my information on to other people that have reached out to me for renting, and some of them have also reached out to me for buying. So I'm looking back, I'm grateful that I did that. And so there might be something similar or just completely different, but you might be getting into doing something right now that you're like, is this really worth my time doing? Some kind of like community involvement type thing, volunteering to coach some sport or um, doing a trash cleanup thing, like that, all those different things. You're building relationships with people, and that's the key. I always tell people if you find yourself spending hours and hours a day working on technology stuff and zero time actually talking to people, then you need to adjust what you're doing, because if you're not interacting with people, the people are your business. So if you're not building that reputation with human beings, then you're not going to be closing deals. So keep that in mind. And however it might fit into your area. So like with Justin being in a smaller area, maybe that human interaction is a lot more important than it is in like a big area like California, where um, it's not as easy to build those relationships because people are going all different directions. So yeah, just figuring out what works and sticking to it, making it happen. Because again, like Justin was talking about with like learning about land and all that stuff, it takes time to become an expert in that field. It's not just a 2-day course and now you're ready to do it all. It takes time to do that, build those relationships and build that wisdom. That's all we got for today. Any saved rounds? All right.